What has been going on in the DFW market after the NAR settlement lawsuit has gone into effect? That is what I'm going to be talking about in this week's video, so stick around. Hey everyone, my name is Danae Hewitt and I'm your go-to DFW Realtor here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Back in July, I talked about the upcoming NAR settlement lawsuit that was going to be going into effect. I did it a month in advance before it actually went into effect on August 17th. And let me tell you, a lot has changed. My opinions and thoughts in that video in July are definitely different now that we have been in this world, this new world, for the last couple of months. If you have any questions about what this settlement, what this lawsuit is, then definitely watch the video. I will link it here and then come back to this video. First, I want to talk about the MLS itself. So the MLS is the multiple listing service, and in there, real estate agents get to put every single piece of information that their clients give them about the house and put it in the MLS, and that gets pushed out to third-party sites. We used to, before August 17th, be able to put in that the seller was offering a buyer's agent commission upon the successful sale and closing of the house. We can no longer put that information in there. We can't put any verbiage that is talking about compensation. We can't use the word compensation. We can't use the word concessions. They want us to stay away from the word bonus just because that can be construed as you're giving the agent a bonus. But if you need to put bonus room in there, then fine, put bonus room in there. But we cannot put anything in the picture description that says compensation. We have something called the transaction desk where we get to upload documents to the MLS, some things like the survey, the seller's disclosure, things like that. We can't even put anything in a Word document and upload it that says compensation is being offered. So with that, buyer's agents are now reaching out to listing agents and finding out if their sellers are offering any sort of compensation for the sale of the home and what that compensation amount is. So that's a little extra legwork for those buyer's agents so that they can go back to their buyers and say, yes, the seller is, no, the seller isn't, or in between saying, yes, the seller is, but they're not giving us a specific amount. So we'll talk about that in just a little bit. What our MLS does have, which I know that some other MLSs have, is something called the seller concession field with a drop down, yes or no. And that's the only thing that you can select. Yes or no. So if my sellers are offering compensation, then I select yes. Okay. Now it says concession. Now seller concessions can be used for anything that is money that the seller is giving to the buyer in order to help them purchase the house. Those seller concessions can be used for a variety of reasons. They can be used towards your closing cost or to pay your agent the commission to purchase the house. It cannot be used towards anything towards your down payment. Any funds that the buyer has to come out of pocket with when they purchase the house, those sellers can give them some money to help offset that cost. But what I do is I do select yes, that my sellers are offering concessions. And hopefully that lets the buyer's agent know that yes, they're offering something, but that they do specifically would need to reach out to me so that they know what amount they're willing to offer. Now, a word to the wise for any agents who are out there who are watching this video, you cannot violate this rule. It is a hard and fast rule. The MLS, Netris MLS, they will fine you for your violations. And I do volunteer for the MLS committee, and there's probably 30 of us at least on this board. And we all, with a unanimous vote, decide, yes, we're giving you a violation and how much it is. Okay, so the violation amount is not a fun number. I don't want to pay that amount because I put buyer's agent commission is X percent. No. Not worth it. Not worth it. So definitely pay attention and don't put it in the MLS. Something that has changed, which I think I talked about in the other video, is that if you are purchasing a house or planning to purchase a house, that you have to go into a buyer-broker agreement with a real estate agent before you go and see houses. Okay. So I've seen a lot of stories on all the real estate Facebook groups that I'm a part of. Lost another client because the buyer doesn't want to sign an agreement. Oh no, they just want to go find an agent that's just going to show them the house. Well, that agent legally cannot show you that house. In that buyer broker agreement, it does outline the services that as a buyer's agent, what I offer to you. And part of those services comes along with compensation. So you will be fully aware of the amount of compensation that I would like to earn when I help you purchase this house and what that amount is. And of course, we're going to try to get that from the seller. All right. That's the first thing that we'll try to do is get that from the seller. But if that seller is giving a different amount, then I would go back to you. We would have that conversation of here's the difference from what we have agreed upon in our agreement versus what the seller is willing to give. And then that's a conversation that we have. Are we moving forward to see the house or not? Things are up for negotiation, right? Something that I love that our brokerage did is they created a 1-page buyer broker agreement. 1 page that can be used for a short period of time or that can be used for one specific property. And I've actually used this. So I've got some really good friends of mine and they found a house and they love it. And they're like, okay, we want to see this house, but if we don't like this house, if we kind of crunch numbers and financially it's not going to work, we are not purchasing another house. Like we would only move if this is the house. I said, fine, great, no problem. More than happy to show you the house. Do need to have you sign this 1-page buyer broker agreement, and we literally just put that singular address on that agreement. Boom, that's it. We discussed the compensation that I would receive. They said absolutely, no problem. They signed it, one and done. Now, they chose not to buy that house. Great, no problem. So the length of the agreement that I did was for that house was for 30 days, but they're not buying the house. Okay, so we move on. So I love it that my brokerage, which is eXp Realty, I love that they created that flexibility as opposed to the more lengthy and the more involved buyer broker agreement. Now there was a lot of confusion and honestly it was just people just not knowing. When August 17th hit, people thought that when, if I was a listing agent and I was hosting an open house, that everyone who came through the open house I had to have them sign a buyer broker agreement before they could even tour the house, which is not the truth. So if you did go to an open house and the agent asked you of that, just know that that wasn't correct. And a lot of this information was so new and there was so much going out there and it changed all the time. It's like we got new information every day. So it was a lot to keep up with. But no, when you go into an open house, me as the listing agent, I am representing the seller. That is my client. And I'm trying to sell this house for them. But if you are under representation agreement with another agent, or if you're just driving by and everything, you can absolutely come in and tour the open house without needing to sign a representation agreement. The agent may still want you to sign in so that they know your name and number and they can give that information to the seller. So we have names of the strange people that are walking through your house, but that's it. So to recap on that, if you are out there and you are looking to purchase a house, you will need to go into some sort of buyer broker agreement before you go and tour properties. All right. And if there's an agent that's telling you that they'll show you without it, then their license could be at stake. And that's just something I'm not willing to do. Now that we are in this, like we have been a couple of months in this, let me share you both on the listing side and the buying side how it's changed my business or kind of how I view this whole lawsuit. So in the previous video, I was really encouraging my sellers to participate and to give the buyer's agent commission. And my plan and my thought process into that was giving a specific amount, a specific percentage. What's customary in our market is 3%. But now I'm kind of changing my tune a little bit because we don't know what that buyer and what their real estate agent, what they are under contract for. Well, if they're under contract for 2.5%, and I've told my seller, well, maybe you might want to offer 3% because that's customary in our market, well, then I'm taking 0.5% out of my seller's pocket, essentially. All right. So I'm going to talk to them what's typically seen in our market, and I'm going to let my sellers make the decision if they want to give what's typical or maybe give a little bit more because they know they're really motivated and need to sell that house. Now, something that has changed since the lawsuit, it was a big miscommunication. I can't believe this is happening. Our brokerage, to staying compliant with all 50 states that we are licensed in, eXp Realty chose not to participate in broker-to-broker compensation. What that means is that when the seller paid commission, they gave everything to eXp Realty. Okay, whatever, 6%. They gave everything to eXp Realty. And then that 6% was split however the listing agent decided when they took on that client. They said, hey, I'm going to take 3% from my listing side, and the other 3% I'm going to use so that we can give that to the buyer's agent, because we know that buyer's agent is going to be experienced in what they're doing, and they're going to bring us a ready, willing, and able buyer. So we're going to split that 50-50. Well, now eXp has said we are not going to participate in broker-to-broker compensation. So that seller is going to pay my commission, whatever that percentage is, and then that seller, if they choose, can pay directly the buyer's agent to bring them that ready, willing, and able buyer. So if you are a real estate agent out there, or if you're a buyer and you're looking to buy a house and the listing agent is from eXp Realty, absolutely, your buyer's agent can get paid. You as the buyer's agent, you can get paid. The seller just has to choose to pay that commission. And of course, that question can be asked to that listing agent. Me personally, in my business, I don't feel like I've been really affected with it on the buying side, because the buyers that I have been working with most recently have all been purchasing the new construction homes. And right now, builders, they've always paid the buyer's agent commission, and they are still choosing to pay the buyer's agent commission. So I have the conversation with them. Absolutely. We have the buyer broker agreement, no problem. And I say this compensation is going to come from the builder. So there really isn't like a ton to negotiate, because that builder is offering the compensation. So it really hasn't affected my business in terms of a buyer going to purchase a resale home right now, where we are dealing with a seller and not the builder. So I'm kind of lucky right now, but I mean, I definitely know what my plan is when I do work with a buyer that is choosing not to purchase a resale home. When it comes to the listing side, so as all of this lawsuit was happening, I actually had some listings that were on the market but were not under contract. So all these documents needed to be amended with the new NAR settlement rules, which that was such a pain in the butt. Okay, but we got it done. But I will say that I had two listings at the time. Both of my sellers prior to the lawsuit had said, yes, we're going to give the buyer's agent commission. Here's the percentage. And after the lawsuit, they both were like, yes, we're going to give buyer's agent commission, and here's the percentage. Okay, so it didn't change with them. They didn't change their mind and say, well, I don't have to. No. But I will share with you this little story. I did have a seller client that wanted to offer 2.5% commission to the buyer's agent. Well, when the offer came in from the buyer's agent, it was a compensation for 3%. Okay, well, my client said 2.5%. They're asking for 3%. So I go to my clients and I say, we've got this 0.5% that we're off. Now, this buyer is asking you to pay for that because they are under agreement for 3%. And technically that buyer's agent, they cannot put compensation in there for more than what they are under their agreement with their buyer. Okay, if I'm the buyer's agent and I've decided with my buyer that I'm going to get 3%, I can't put a compensation offer in for 3.5%. I can't get paid more than what is on my agreement. That's really important to know. So I told my sellers, I said, their agreement is 3%. Originally, you're offering 2.5%. So the buyer is going to be responsible for that 0.5%, but that buyer is asking you to pay that full percent. All right. So my clients had a decision to make. Did they want to pay that extra 0.5% to sell the house, or do they want to negotiate that and possibly have the buyer walk away? Those were the two options. In this case, my sellers absolutely had to sell this house because they were purchasing a brand new house. And so they said, well, that 0.5% is like not a lot of money. So I mean, it's not like that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things. They had it in their equity. So that buyer's agent got his 3%. 10%. Right now in my business, I am currently very listing heavy. As we say, I have a lot of listings right now. I'm working with an investment company that is choosing to sell properties out of their portfolio, and they are offering a buyer's agent commission. So that's a conversation that I'm not even having to have with this company, because this is what they pay. This is what they pay me. This is what they pay the buyer's agents. Like, there are no questions. We have had some offers come in where that buyer's agent is asking for their percentage because there was a gap, and the seller was like, nope, not paying it. So those buyer's agents have to go back to their buyers and possibly renegotiate that agreement with them, or the buyer's going to have to pay that difference. I don't know what those conversations ever came out to, because we closed the properties, I don't know. The seller's not paying more than what they have already decided on. In conclusion, I think going into this lawsuit, to this change, we had consumers that were saying this would be like the end of the real estate agent. This will be the end of buying and selling houses, and we can do it all ourselves and everything. And that certainly has not happened. We have more informed consumers out there when they are buying houses. And now we really have more informed consumers when they are selling houses. Even though sellers signed those listing agreements and it literally outlined how much they were paying the brokerage and how much the brokerage was splitting, some of them claim to not know, which that's a whole nother video for a whole nother day, which I probably won't ever do, but now we have well-informed consumers, so they know exactly what's happening, how much money they're coming out of pocket, and how much money that agent is getting paid in the transaction. So real estate is not dead. It is certainly thriving here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, which I am happy to report. If you've got any questions or comments below, I would love to know. We can definitely start a discussion. But if not, then check out this other video, and I'll see you next week.